do I know? The Amateur's Guide to Professional Gear. That's right. I'm calling myself an amateur hobbyist, but an enthusiast. So, welcome to the show. It's been a minute since I did an episode. I've been pretty busy. I've been recording an album with my band Fangs and Twang. So we're in the studio doing album number 4, Fangs 4. To be determined what that title is yet. But doing some studio work, getting all that stuff done. Not to mention we had a little Michigan power outage over the last week and didn't have any power for the last 4 or 5 days, so that sucked. But we are full on energy today with multiple amps, multiple pedal boards, because today's topic is something I like to call Mega Rig. So, Mega Rig, you might ask, what the hell is that, besides a stupid reference to The Office? Okay, so I mentioned I was recording an album, and, you know, I wanted to get some different guitar sounds on this album, and I'm the only guitar player in Fangs and Twang, so, and I like guitar, as you might have noticed. So I wanted to really thicken up the guitar on this album and make sure I had multiple, you know, different voices, some different tones to track on the album. So I knew what I was going to do is mainly record with my PRS to do the bass tracks, to do the, you know, the basic tracking, going through. We're recording all the songs live one time through to get guitar, drums, and bass going that way. But I also knew that I was going to overdub some additional guitar on other stuff, and instead of using that PRS again, I wanted to get this guy, my old Telecaster, on some tracks as well, just to do the single coil thing versus the humbuckers on the PRS. PRS plays great, so I knew that it would be great for live tracking, being able to execute and hit the stuff I wanted to hit for as good as I am. What do I know? And then, you know, come back and do some overdubs with the Tele and get a little bit of tonal variety there. And I also wanted to, even though I was going to be using the same amp setup, I wanted to use my different pedals on each configuration and kind of get some different stuff going on there. So all that I say just to kind of form the basis of how did this Mega Rig come about. So here's what happened. I wanted to use is this board here has become my my main board, even though it started out as the B board, versus this one over here that has more pedals, more things going on. But lately I've been playing with this new amp, the Z-Rec Junior, and it has a ton of great overdrive that comes, you know, naturally out of the amp. I love that sound, so I wanted to take advantage of that. So I've been using a lot less overdrive on the board. You can see the only thing here going on is the Morning Glory, and then occasionally I'll use this saturation channel on the deco. That's really cool. But so that's kind of where I've been going with guitar tone wise, especially with my main rig. But I also wanted to use some other pedals here and do some more variety. So the idea was do a little bit of both. So the main tracking I did, I ran the PRS through this smaller board that has the, well, I can go through it real quick. So starts with just a tuner, the Snark, and then we do analog man compressor. I'll get a little bit more into that later because compression's kind of a controversial topic when you're running through a really cool amp like the Z-Rec. Then I go through a Love Pedal Pickle Vibe, that's a Univibe style effect, Morning Glory, Strymon Deco to get some cool modulation there, as well as I love that saturation channel, great pedal. Running delay from the Keeley Echoes, it's a tape echo, simulation, and then the Hydra is where I'm getting my reverb from. So, you know, running that into a stereo amp setup with my two favorite amps here, the Z-Rec and then this Fender Champ, which is, it's the real deal. It's I think it's a 1970 Silverface Champ. Sounds really great, especially for studio work. So that's, I was going to run stereo on out of the board here. And I've been doing that lately. There's another video all about the stereo rig there. But then when I did the overdubbing and started running the Telecaster, I wanted to run through this other board to get some variety, you know, and not have the same thing happening. So the second board I ran through was this one. That has a lot more, a ton of overdrive options. You can see it starts with a boost. Well, it actually starts with the wah. Don't mind this chorus. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Starts with the wah, then goes into the envelope filter, Keeley Neutrino, over to the Keeley compressor, over into the JHS Unicorn, which is the Univibe effect. And then we start to hit the gain channels with the EP booster. It's a new pedal I've been using, the Joyo King of Kings. It's definitely a King of Tone ripoff. Really nice pedal there for very little money. I paid like 70 bucks for it. Love pedal, that's the Eternity Fuse. Little higher gain I use on that one. Noble's ODR1. From there it goes into a couple of delay pedals, MXR, and then the Canyon, which I use the Shimmer delay. It's a, you know, very spacey effect. And then some other stuff. But anyways, so that was board number 2. So 2 different rigs, 2 different setups for 2 different guitars working in the studio. Why am I talking about all this crap? Well, I came home, had a great session in the studio. We spent 2 days, recorded 11 tracks. You'll be hearing that soon. I'll be putting stuff on my channel. So check that out if you're interested. But I came back and I set these boards back in the basement down here, and I was like, oh, why don't we get a little crazy and run both of these boards together and use some of the stereo outputs in order to engage multiple amps. So instead of just a stereo rig, I'm now running Mega Rig. So how does that work? The first thing I wanted to do is actually find a way to run straight into the Z-Rec without going through any effects at all. So I mentioned the compression earlier. I love compression. I use compression all the time. As just part of my basic tone, especially when I was playing with Fangs and Twang and trying to get a little bit of a country-ish kind of spanky, clean tone like that. So I've used a compressor a ton for that, whether it be the Analog Man, which is a raw-style compressor, or the Keeley. It's a 4-knob, you know, classic Keeley compressor. It's been around for years and years, but I love it, and it's just another raw-style compressor. So, however, going into the Z-Rec, it has such a great tone right on its own. How can I find a way to make that completely dry and then run the other effects into my other amps? So what I ended up doing here, I'm going to grab the other camera again, is actually starting off with this MXR analog chorus, which has a through channel, you can see right here. So I run that clean through channel straight into the Z-Rec, nothing else. So all that's getting is just my guitar signal clean going into the Z-Rec Junior, and then I use a lot of volume, which is actually the gain control. And you can see the master's really low because I'm in a small room down here and I don't want to kill myself. But yeah, so quite a bit of gain coming out of the amp. But that's it. It's a dry signal going straight in there. After that, we go into everything else. And then we start to hit stereo here with the Deco. So run stereo out over here into the Echoes and into the Hydra. and then we split between the two other amps. So one channel is going into what I mentioned before, the Fender Champ, and then the other channel going into this Ibanez amp that I have. I've had it for quite a while. It's a really nice, inexpensive tube amp. That's kind of a Fender style signal, but it's cheap. It's my practice amp that I take to band practice all the time. Just plug in any cabinets. I got this amp because I started building cabinets. Here's a couple that I've built here, and I just wanted a cool amp to be able to test those things out. So yeah, that's the setup. So we're splitting the signal immediately, taking the clean, dry channel into the Z-Rack, and then everything else, tons of pedals, kind of a weird order because they're technically two different boards. And then splitting the stereo signal into the Champ and the Ibanez. What does it do? It sounds really big, and I really like it. I mean, especially because I'm just down here in the basement. I would never take this out to a live show because it's just too much. It's too much stuff. But I wanted to show like what all this stuff together sounds like. So why don't I stop talking and we could do that. Okay, so a couple things, other things I wanted to mention. One is, when I was talking about that MXR stereo chorus earlier, one thing that I was really amazed by when I picked up that pedal is it does a great job of isolating the stereo signal. Here's what I mean by that. Sometimes you run stereo guitar, and I definitely noticed it with my other stereo pedals, is you can very easily get ground hum or a ground loop involved when you're running that stereo signal because the channels aren't isolated. So whatever they did in this MXR pedal does that very well, and there's not a lot of noise coming, even though I'm running, this is my signal. You hear some noise there, but it's not overwhelming for 3 amps running, you know, in various stereo setups there. So let me do a little bit of one at a time here. The other thing I want to say is I don't have every mic, I don't have every amp mic'd individually. Sorry about that. What do I know? I have a very simple setup here with only 2 channels, only a couple mics running. So this AKG condenser here is picking up both of these amps. It does a pretty good job at that. So that's what we're doing today. So here's what the Z-Rack on its own. It cleans up super nice. If I wind my guitar back to 5 or 6. Get up to 10, then you hear that overdrive. So just a dry signal. No reverb, no nothing. So when I add the amps in, here's what it does. You can hear I got some reverb going on the left and right channel. That's my neck pickup. There's the bridge pickup. Yeah, so what else? Let me show you when I hit that chorus pedal, what happens then. recording. Pretty cool. I love that fast cranking up the rate knob on a chorus pedal. And Schofield loves it too. For stereo stuff, here's what the delay sounds like when it's ping-ponging between channels. Double tracking effect on the deco also does it's great in stereo. Really wacky, I turn on this tremolo, harmonic tremolo on the Hydra. All that overdrive tone is coming from the Z-Rack. The other amps are clean. I can show you if I put that on standby. Some overdrive from the Nobles. So that's what I turned on the Neutrino and a Sub and Up, which is like a Pog, you know, octave pedal.
Thank you.